This is Teague from Service Pro, and in this video I'm going to go over the basic installation and connections of a car audio amplifier. Take a look here. I dug up an old Phoenix Gold XS2300 2-channel amplifier. This is actually a pretty old amplifier. It's the first amplifier I ever bought. It was 93, 94, was it? Something like that, but anyway, let's take a look at the connections. Take a look on the side. You have these two knobs right here. This knob is going to be the bass, how much bass you send to your subs or your speakers. This one is the amount of signal that's going to your speakers. Alright, these two you don't worry about until everything's connected, and then you play with the sound, those knobs, to get the sound the way you want the speakers. Okay, here, take a look. Here are the high level inputs, and here are your RCAs. Now if your radio receiver doesn't have RCA outs, these type of connections, then you're going to have to use the high level, which is basically like speaker wire. And you're going to connect your 4 wires, because it's a 2-channel amp, to here. You're going to have your left positive on the side, your 2 negatives in the middle, and then your right positive on that side. But if you have an aftermarket or a radio receiver that has RCA outs, all you have to do is plug your left and your right into these. And if you take a look, you have a 24 decibel crossover. This is basically meaning that the amplifier has a built-in crossover. So I forget what's in or what's out, but this is gonna change the amount of bass going to the speakers. And over here you have your LPL. This is actually pretty cool because you can buy a Phoenix Gold plug that plugs into there, and it's a remote bass switch. It's a control knob, basically like this, but you can mount it to where you can access it, like up by the driver's seat or whatever, so you have control of the bass. Alright, if you switch it around, here are your outputs. You have your 4 speaker connections. So you have your left positive, left negative, right positive, right negative. And all you do is hook up the correct wire, the positives to the positives, and the rights, the negatives to the negatives. Now, what also you could do with this, if you don't want to use it as a 2-channel, you could bridge the speakers. So in other words, if you're just going to use this amplifier to power one speaker, you connect the positive to this left positive and the negative to the right negative to control just one speaker. Now over here you have your fuse, your 30 amp fuse. And if you take a look over here, this is going to be your power connections. First one is your battery positive. So you're going to run at least an 8-gauge wire from here to your battery. And of course make sure you have an inline fuse connected to that 8-gauge wire somewhere. That is very necessary. Alright, the middle one, you have your battery negative. So this one is basically your ground. The easiest place is to ground it to your chassis. You could run it directly to the negative side of the battery, but you're going to use more wire, and it's usually a lot harder. But in any case, you want to make sure you have a very good ground, a good connection, in other words, especially if you connect it to the chassis. make sure scrape away any undercoat or any paint where you're going to make the connection, because you want it basically metal to metal. If you have a bad connection, you might get static, or it might not work at all. If you take a look on the last one right here, is your remote switch. Alright, this one is what's going to actually power the amplifier on when you turn your car on. So you run like, it doesn't have to be a 8-gauge wire, it could be a 16, smaller gauge wire. It doesn't have to be such a big wire. And this remote switch, you could run it to your ignition. So when you start your car up, it starts the amp. You can run it to your remote switch on your stereo. So when your stereo turns on and this turns on, the only thing you don't want to do is run this to your battery positive. What that means is, if you do that, it's going to keep the amplifier on all the time, and it's going to drain your battery. So connect this one to any 12-volt source that is powered on by the ignition, or like I said, like the stereo, which has to be manually, which is usually powered by the ignition. So when you turn your car on, it turns on, and when you turn your car off, it turns off. And that is basically the connections of a 2-channel amplifier. So if we go over it real quick, just again, you have your bass knob, you have your signal, you have your high level inputs, only if you don't have your RCA. RCA, you're going to get better sound with RCA. Alright, you have your built-in crossover, and then you have your bass remote switch here. Your cable, you can plug the cable in, you can have control the bass from up by your radio or wherever. And then over here you have your speakers, connect your speakers, you have your fuse, and then you have your power. Alright, thanks for watching, and if you have any questions, you can hit me up on my website at servicepro.com.